Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, or good evening from wherever you're tuning in from. I'm Ed Yim, President and CEO of American Composers Orchestra, and thanks for joining us for a discussion about contemporary chamber orchestra repertoire. We've got some amazing colleagues lined up to speak to you about the work that their orchestras have been doing in this area, along with some terrific composers. During this time, we felt that as orchestras all around the world really are looking for programming that they might be able to use as an interim step to getting back to having the full Megillah of a Mahler 8 or a Gurrelieder or a Beethoven Ninth Symphony. People are looking to chamber orchestra repertoire where you can have a little more space between our musicians on stage, and we might be able to stream it. We might be able to play for a socially distanced audience. You know, we're all adapting to everything every day. So we just thought we'd have a discussion about people who are making stuff happen. I wanted to reference a study that was done in Berlin recently. You might have read about it, but scientists at the Charité in Berlin issued a paper at the request of 7 German orchestras advising that the distances that need to be observed in rehearsal and performance for the foreseeable future are as follows. I'll say very briefly, it's 5 feet between the seats of string players, which means that string players need to have their individual stands and no more 2 people on a stand. It's 6.5 feet between winds. And there's now some evidence that our colleagues in the flute section might need to have a little extra space. And the conductor should observe at least 5 feet from the nearest player. So these recommendations were provided at the request of the Berlin Philharmonic, the Deutsche Symphony Orchestra, the Concerthaus Orchestra, Orchestra of the German Opera, the Deutsche Oper and Komische Oper, and the Radio Symphony and the Berlin Staatskapelle. Wow, Berlin has a lot of orchestras. And thank you to them for doing this scientific, verified, peer-reviewed study. A copy of that paper in an English translation will be emailed to all of you who have registered on Eventbrite for this call, along with a resource list that includes all the pieces that we're going to talk about today, the instrumentation, the duration, links to composers' websites, plus a few extra links from our friends in the music publishing community who have produced their own lists of works that can be performed socially distanced. So without much further ado, I'm going to bring on my colleagues from the LA Chamber Orchestra, Ben Cadwallader and Derek Spiva, and they're going to speak about some of the music that LACO, as we call it, has been doing. Before I do that, just a couple more things. ACO doesn't consider itself a chamber orchestra, but we do perform as a chamber orchestra. And there is something very special, I think, about the chamber orchestra repertoire. For me, it is a unique blend of sonic splendor of an orchestra and the intimacy of chamber music. And that makes it really wonderful. And, you know, the virtuosity of the players are on display in a different way. And there is an interaction and kind of a team spirit that is not missing in symphonic ensembles, but I think is highlighted in the chamber orchestra setting. So it's really a unique genre. And then lastly, I want to give our heartfelt thanks to our colleagues at Jensen Artists, led by Christina Jensen and her team, including Aled Roberts and Maggie, who have done just an incredible job getting the word out about the seminar. We had at airtime over 140 people registered for this, and of course, many more people will see this afterwards on YouTube and Facebook and everyone's homepages. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Derek and Ben to join me. Hello, gentlemen.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Ed. Thank you so much for having us. It's great to be here. Excited to talk about this.
It's really great to see you. You know, Ben, I was an orchestra management fellow at LACO in the 90s, actually. So I have a very deep affection for your orchestra.
Good. Well, it's a really special place. I'm honored to be here too, and glad that Derek can join us as well. Ellen Reed, by the way, sends her regrets. She wanted to be here too, but unfortunately couldn't make it work. But she says hi to you, Ed, and to everyone tuning in.
Yeah. Now, Ellen is your composer in residence at the moment, isn't she?
She's composer in residence and creative advisor is also her title.
Well,
Yeah.
you could have a more brilliant, generous colleague on board. But let's talk about your relationship with Derek a little bit, since we were fortunate enough to have him on the call. How did Derek get hooked up with LACO in the first place? Are there institutional history stories? Derek, what do you remember? What was the first call you got from LACO?
Well, my interactions with LACO actually started in the early 2000s because I was at almost every concert they had as an usher while working as a student at UCLA.
Amazing.
And then, you know, after standing back there, hoping that one day my piece would be on that stage with them, I entered it was a competition for New Music USA for New Music, a Music Alive program. And I was able to win a spot to work with the Los Angeles Chamber Orchestra in 2015. A dream realized. And I kind of hit it off from there. It's really kind of incredible community, and I always felt like the Los Angeles Chamber Orchestra was pretty close to the community, and so, you know, whatever I can do to contribute to bringing the orchestra even closer to the diverse community that we have here in Los Angeles. That's that's what I love.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Fantastic. So Prism's Cycle Sweeps was a piece that you wrote and started writing in 2017, right? So that's not the first piece that you wrote for LACO.
Oh, that the very first part was premiered in 2015. 2017 was the second part, that was written in 2017, and then the third part was 2020.
Fantastic.
And that was supposed to be we were supposed to bring that piece to life in May for the season closing LACO concert, but unfortunately, for obvious reasons, that has to be moved ahead. But we are going to bring it to life. We're just going to do it at a time when we can bring together the full forces of the orchestra.
Yeah, totally. Something to look forward to. We all need that right now.
Yes, indeed.
Ben, before we get to the first piece in your segment of today, tell us a little bit about LACO's history in commissioning and the role that contemporary music plays in your organization, because it's really unique and special, I think.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that was one of the things that I was most excited about, that brought me to LACO. And I know for Jaime Martin, who's LACO's relatively new music director, the same is true for him. And I think there's one program that I think best exemplifies how LACO thinks about contemporary music and how it relates to our history, and that is the Sound Investment Program, which some of you may be familiar with. It was crowdfunding before crowdfunding was a thing, where a relatively large group of people buy into a commission. And I think the thing that really speaks to me about that program, great to commission new music, of course, and the final product, the premiere, is always a tremendously exciting event to be a part of. But the thing that I think is really special to highlight is the long-term relationship and the commitment that the organization makes to the relationship with the composer, with the artist, not just the internal relationship, but also the relationship that the organization facilitates between the composer and the audience and the funders directly. That's one of the most, and I think that in many ways is almost as important as the act of programming and the act of commissioning itself. And that's something at LACO. I'm still, I'm relatively new in my tenure during a crazy time. But that is something that is a through line. Derek touched on that too. And even Derek's example of his wonderful history with LACO, I think that it really does exemplify how we as an organization think not just about new music, but about how we commission new music and the role that composers enjoy in our organization.
That's really part of the community, right? As part of your community.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
That's awesome. We have at ACO, even though we are committed solely to American contemporary orchestral work, we shamelessly stole Sound Investment as a model. And,
awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know why more people don't do it, actually. So, if anyone listening wants to find out about Sound Investment at LACO or about what we call Commission Club at ACO, you can go to our websites and check it out. And feel free to contact us about how that all works. Yeah. So Ellen Reed, who couldn't be with us today, her piece Petrichor,
right,
was a Sound Investment commission, wasn't it?
That's exactly right. And in fact, all three of the pieces that we're going to look at today are great examples of what Derek and I were just talking about with this longer relationship. And you're right, Ed. This Petrichor was a Sound Investment commission from 2018. And the funny thing about this piece is she wrote this piece for social distancing before social distancing was cool.
Right.
Where it's a small ensemble, but it has an expansive scope to it. The boundaries of the concert hall or of your headphones really just melt away with this piece. And Petrichor, some of you may know this, but Petrichor describes that unique and beautiful smell of fresh rain on dry ground. We all know exactly, just hearing those words, that smell, but it's really hard to articulate. And I remember I saw the title and what the title meant before I actually heard the piece, and I'm thinking, like, how is this going to work? How is she going to make this happen? But it is incredibly effective, wonderfully done. So and it's worth noting on the social distancing side, the musicians are spread throughout on the stage and throughout the hall as well. So it's a really fantastic, beautiful piece. And I think we have a 2-minute excerpt that we're going to all listen to.
Yeah, let's hear it. Here it comes. Wow, that is so beautiful.
Oh, it's such a beautiful piece.
Yeah,
such a beautiful
piece. Great piece. Yeah, it's just great.
Yeah.
Well, Ellen, of course, won the Pulitzer Prize last year for her amazing opera Prism, which dealt with a very important topic about the survivors of sexual assault and sexual, survivors of sexual trauma. That's also a beautiful, if darker, piece. But she's an amazing composer, and thank you for sharing that with us. And I hope that people will program it. Because it does have to do with the outdoors. Maybe someday it can be done outdoors right after a rainstorm. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Ooh, cool idea.
Yeah. So, Derek, let's talk about Prism Cycles and Leaps, your suite of 3 movements that you wrote for LACO. Just tell us what you're trying to evoke and what the sound world is.
Yeah, so Prism Cycles Leaps overall is kind of an approach to just trying to like evoke multiple experiences throughout like just living. And that seems like a really, of course, general overarching theme, but each part is dedicated to bringing together into one vocabulary many kind of vocabulary approaches to music making from many different cultures around the world. I myself am from a family of many different cultures within my own family. And Los Angeles is also a community that has many different cultures in it. And so kind of as a response to my personal experience of living and interacting and being with so many different cultures, my vocabulary, my musical vocabulary is such that all of these cultures kind of come together and intertwine with each other. And so what I really enjoy doing is showing how these different languages of musical approaches can intertwine to create like kind of a single language that actually has really beautiful moments within it, within each of its components that show how each different thing is very kind of beautiful unto itself and how it works along with something else.
Fantastic.
And so that's my that's the general approach. And this specific excerpt that we're going to look at right now is from To Be a Horizon, which is the final part. And To Be a Horizon is to like evoke the idea of being endlessly open to an infinite amount of ways to connect with one another. And so that's what this excerpt's about. And I'm a huge fan of just bringing cultures together through music, because maybe, better communication often solves problems.
Yeah, that's what we hope.
Yeah.
Now, we actually have a video of this piece. Is that correct, Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've created this video of this piece since the crisis began.
Yeah.
So this was actually Derek's idea. We did a broadcast of our instead of the May concert that would have closed our season, and Derek had the idea. He basically said, "Hey, can I reach out to LACO musicians, or can you help us get a group of LACO musicians together so that we can at least breathe some life into this piece that we otherwise would have had?" And we thought that's a fantastic idea. Absolutely. So Derek really did the legwork. We have a fantastic videographer, Nathaniel, who pulled it together, as you'll see, and you'll recognize a lot of LACO musicians in this video. It's really spectacularly done. The whole piece, Derek, is what, 12 minutes long, but this excerpt is 3.
It's about 12 minutes long, and this is like the last 3 minutes, except we're only going to be listening to 1 minute of that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. The whole excerpt of the whole 3-minute excerpt is up on our our YouTube page.
Awesome. Let's watch it. Wow, that's just
it's just amazing. I don't know of another to weave so many different threads together so effectively. Derek does that so brilliantly in this, and it just, I wish we could have heard the whole thing, but we have that to look forward to when we're able to do it.
The cool thing is
so good.
at the concert, I wouldn't have been able to run on stage and start dancing, but in the video, I had the opportunity to get in there.
Totally, yeah.
Derek, why not? Why
I
not?
would have done it if they would have let me. I would have went up there and danced.
Derek, what was the instrument that was? It looked like a ball that she was playing. What
that's
was
a
that?
calabash. It's a calabash, so it's from like the pumpkin family, but they kind of carved it out, and they actually have a series of pieces and songs that go along with that instrument.
Okay, so I can't remember if the official instrumentation actually calls for board or not, but everyone take note.
It does not, but that instrument is awesome.
Yeah. So for anyone who tuned in after I said this, there will be a resource page with everyone's pieces, with links to the composers' websites, with sound clips, with publisher information where applicable, with instrumentation, the whole, Megillah. And that will be emailed to everyone who signed up for this session on Eventbrite. So you don't need to be taking notes furiously. Just sit back and sip your drink and enjoy. We're going to end the LACO segment of this with a little excerpt from Andrew Norman's Begin. Of course, Andrew has gone on to glory and fame as one of our great composers. I'm selfishly glad that New York is getting him back, even though I'm sad for LA that he's leaving.
It's a loss for us.
Yeah, but his music belongs to everyone. So I think that given that we're running a little short, let's just play it. Let's
go.
Let's begin.
Yeah. Again, a piece that uses a small number of musicians relatively, but sounds so expansive. Ellen points out that it's a great concert opener. It's less than 10 minutes long, a great way to kick off a program.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you both so much for joining us and sharing these, what are only a few jewels in LACO's distinguished history in contemporary music, and keep making new art. And I hope that listeners from all over the world will make these pieces live far and beyond Southern California.
Amen. Thank you, Ed.
All
right. Thank you, Ed.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
So I'm going to welcome my partner in crime, Artistic Director of ACO, Derek Bermel. Hey, D.
How's it going?
Good. That was fun, right?
Oh, that was great.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have 2 out of 3 of our composers of the pieces that we're going to talk about today with us, but we're going to start with a piece where the composer unfortunately couldn't be with us, but who's a dear friend of ACO's, Valerie Coleman. Do you want to say a few words about Phenomenal Women before we play a little bit?
Sure. Well, Phenomenal Women was commissioned just from a couple years ago and was premiered at Zankel Hall and Carnegie Hall. And Valerie Coleman is a dear friend with whom I've performed a lot, and who's both a wonderful flutist and composer, and the founder of the Amani Winds, which is a woodwind quintet that's traveled all over the world, playing mostly contemporary music and mostly music by composers of color, but music in all different styles, music involving improvisation, and also the great woodwind quintet literature, of which there is quite a bit. So they've been real champions of contemporary music. So she's really spent a lot of her time championing new music, as well as composing at the same time. And so what she did here was to compose a piece that featured the Imani Winds as soloist. So a woodwind quintet as soloist. And what's wonderful about this piece, I think, for chamber orchestras is that they can pull out their principal players to be the soloists of this piece. And I think Valerie intended it that way, to be a very flexible kind of piece. Or, of course, they could bring in the Imani Winds, who are a terrific woodwind quintet, which is what we did a couple years ago, as you remember, Ed.
Yeah, that was a great concert. Let's hear a little bit from Phenomenal Women by Valerie Coleman.
And by the way, I just want to say this excerpt is the movement of she's featured different phenomenal women for each movement. So you have one movement that features Maya Angelou, one movement that features Katherine Johnson, great mathematician, one movement features Michelle Obama, one movement in honor of Clarissa Shields, the boxer, and this movement was in honor of Serena Williams, the great tennis player. And so you'll hear a little bit of that in this excerpt.
Very cool. Let's hear it. That's fun. That's a lot of fun. Oh, Derek, you're on mute. Derek, you're on mute.
Very, very whimsical.
There we go. Yeah,
you
very
hear the
whimsical.
ball.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm just going to remind everyone that all the information about all of these pieces is going to be on the resource sheet that we're going to send out to everyone. So since we have 2 of our composers with us, I'd like to bring David Hertzberg on screen to join us to talk about his chamber symphony. Hey, David.
Hey. Hi, guys.
Where are you?
In LA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at my place. I've been loving this conversation and these amazing recordings.
Yeah, it's a lot
Too
of
many
fun.
Dereks, but other than that, you know.
Too many Dereks, yeah.
There's only one other Derek.
I know. But even that, it's crazy to be with another Derek.
Yeah.
So,
hey, David, it's great to see you. Now, you participated in our Underwood New Music readings for emerging composers a few years ago, right?
I did, yes.
And this was the commission that you got out of that, and we premiered it. I think it was my first concert with AC as president of ACO, like in spring 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Derek, why did you, I mean, it's a great piece, but what made you pick this piece of the many great pieces that we have performed as an example of something that people might want to consider programming during these times?
Well, I'll tell you, it is so hard. And as you know, Ed, you saw my list of about 30 terrific pieces. I could even screen share it, but I think even better, maybe we'll just add it to the materials that we send out to everybody. No, I thought that I was thinking about pieces that chamber orchestras might want to program, and this piece is so beautifully formed and motivically you hear these motives come back. You hear shades of Sibelius and I don't know Messiaen. I don't want to make too many references because I don't know what you were thinking, David, but it's very lyrical and at the same time beautifully kind of constructed all the way through, so you can follow these motives as they evolve and change, and there's a beautiful arc to it. And one of the main things, David, that I just thought was so beautiful about this piece was how you were able to achieve this big sound with a chamber orchestra that sounds so expansive. And I know that you must be influenced by those kinds of pieces.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that means so much coming from you, Derek, especially. But I love, of course, Sibelius and Messiaen. It's funny. Like I think in addition to the sort of incredible mentorship and just resources that ACO offered in the Underwood readings, one incredible honor about getting this commission to write this piece for you guys and for Maestro Manahan to conduct was, it's a luxury to be able to have a large canvas to work on time-wise for composers, of course, you both know, and it is something that I really hungered for. This piece that that you guys had read in the 2015, I think, Underwood readings. It sort of had, it's called Specter of the Spheres, and I'd written a lot of orchestral pieces that sort of have these flowing, organic forms, where it's really about watching one thing evolve. And I had wanted to write something that kind of had that breadth, but also a rhetorical quality, like kind of what you were describing, Derek, something that figuring out how something that feels symphonic and has a kind of a real argument in that sense, how that fits into my musical universe. So that was something that was really cool about getting to write this piece. And then on a kind of musical, sort of nuts and bolts, very tactile, juicy musical level, I was really excited about. I like this sort of heterogeneity of this this combination. I guess I don't know. I'm always trying to make some weird infernal organ of heterogeneous noises come to life and become I don't know, take on its own weird life.
Well, let's hear it. Let's hear the excerpt. I'm dying to hear it again. This is Chamber Symphony by David Hertzberg. There is the Sibelius at the end.
Yeah.
That is the climax of Sibelius 5 in my mind. David, thank you for writing that beautiful work. And, you know, I think it's great. We're really happy to share that work today and for you to be here because you love opera and you have devoted a great deal of your time in the past few years to writing and working on opera projects, which is fantastic. But I think Derek and I both wanted to make sure that people remember that you write incredible orchestral music too.
Why, thank you. That means so much. Thank you so much for having me on. It's such a pleasure to see both of your faces and get the chance to hear all this wonderful music.
Yeah, we'll catch up with you soon, okay?
All right, take care.
Okay, bye.
Stay safe.
You know what would sound great with that?
What'd you say?
I think Verclair de Nacht would sound great with that on a program, wouldn't it?
Sure, yeah, lots of
That's
things.
my personal feeling. All right, let me bring our friend Alex Temple on. Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
Pretty good.
Good. You in Arizona?
Yep, in Tempe, Arizona.
Cool.
It's very hot here.
Cool. Derek, Alex, do you want to talk a little bit about the first version of Liebe Sleeve? And
yeah. You want to start?
Well, I could just say I don't want to take too much time because you're here. So, but I just, to me, it's this. It's such an American piece. At the same time, it has those shades of Barrio that kind of float through, and it's beautiful. It's spooky. It's moving. And I just think it's the kind of piece that, in a very short amount of time, says so much about so many things. And so without actually saying it, which is one of the things I love about your music, Alex, is that you say many things without always saying the thing that inspired you, but you let the audience find their own way through the piece, which I think is particularly moving and a great way to bring the audience to have their most vital kind of experience through art.
Yeah. So the story behind Liebe Sleeve is I wrote it for the American Composers Orchestra and singer Melissa Hughes in 2011. And what I was thinking about at the time was how scary mid-century love songs are if you take them literally. So like the example I like to use is from the song I Only Have Eyes for You. There's this line, you are here, so am I. No, I don't know if we're in a garden or on a crowded avenue. You are here, so am I. Maybe millions of people go by, but they all disappear from view because I only have eyes for you. And that sounds romantic, but if you picture actually experiencing that, it's this like David Lynch nightmare scenario. And that's true of a lot of songs from this period. You know, Laura and Till There Was You and all this stuff. If you Midnight Sun, if you literalize them, they're these sort of states of altered consciousness created either by the presence or the absence of the beloved. And you know, I look at this and I think, well, that's not a healthy relationship. It's a very compelling song.
What, Derek?
Stalker Torch song.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I love that stuff. This isn't to say, you know, throw it out, but I also want to acknowledge that it has this kind of terrifying element to it. And so Liebe Sleeve is a piece that starts out sounding like one of those songs and then gradually gets more and more distorted and further afield as the protagonist is like brought through different scenarios. Every time something happens involving the object of her affection, the world changes around her. And in the end, she's isolated in these dark corridors. That image actually, like a number of the images in the piece, came directly from a dream I had. In these dark corridors, and there are other people around, but she can't perceive them or see them except in little glimpses here and there.
Well, let's listen to it.
Yeah.
Alex Temple, Liebe Sleeve. Wow, that's amazing, Alex. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have a quick question
and
for you.
thanks also to Melissa. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a quick question for you before you go. I know after ACO premiered this piece that I think there was a performance with the Detroit Symphony, right?
Yes, well, there have been a number of performances with Chicago Composers Orchestra, Northwestern Chamber Orchestra, Edge Ensemble at Shenandoah Conservatory. Two of those were with one of those was with Melissa Hughes also, and the other two with Jenna Lyle. And then this past February, Isabel Leonard and the Detroit Symphony did it as well.
So
before everything shut down.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm curious, in those times that that the piece has been programmed, what's been your favorite pairing of your piece with something else?
Oh, wow. I don't have an answer to that right now.
Okay. Well, So if you think of something either that has been done or that you would like to have done with Liebe Sleeve, because this is for orchestras all around who might be thinking about programming things in juxtaposition, whatever, you should tweet it. And
I think it would be great to do it with one of the songs that I had in mind when I wrote it.
Oh, like one of those romantic ballads.
Midnight Sun or by Johnny Mercer, or Some Enchanted Evening, which is totally a Stalker Torch song, or
I may have
Tilder's You, or any of those.
This may be a new genre that we have to...
I suspect that's a long-standing genre.
All right.
I mean, does Every Breath You Take count? Or Good Night and Go by Imogen Heap? That's a good one.
That's great.
Stalker song. Yeah.
All right. So for those of you who are tuning in the middle, you can find more about Alex and this piece and her music on her website, which will be on the resource list that we're going to send out. Alex, you're a dream for joining us for a little bit to talk about this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and Derek, I'll talk to you probably like in the next 5 minutes or so, as we usually do.
All right. Bring it on, Derek.
Thanks. Where's Derek? Okay. And now we're going to go to our friends ROCO, who are amazing. This is Alicia Lawyer, the founder and principal oboe, and this is Anthony DiLorenzo. Hi, you two.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Sorry we're running a little bit behind, but that's, when you have cool people and amazing music to talk about, it's hard to keep it under. Alicia, I'm going to hand it over to you to talk a little bit about ROCO, because your name doesn't necessarily place you in a particular place, and I think people will be interested to know what ROCO is and what it stands for. Ooh, Alicia, I think, are you on mute? Uh-oh, technical difficulties. Hang on. No, not yet. Anthony, do you want to start?
Sure. I think maybe her mic is muted. I just texted her.
Okay.
Well, I can tell you until she comes back on. I started myself with ROCO. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Anthony.
Okay. Oh, poor Alicia. Sorry. I met Alicia back in around 2013. In fact, I was a performer, a trumpet player with the organization.
Oh, wow.
And so through there, we sort of developed a relationship with their really unique chamber orchestra.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
oh, there you go, Alicia.
Am I better? Am I here?
You're there.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
All right. Yeah,
go ahead, Alicia. Take it from here.
Thank you. I founded ROCO in 2005, 40-piece group, so it's a full chamber orchestra. Half the musicians are not from here, but they come to Houston, and we actually do about 26 concerts in 12 different venues for chamber music as well as a full chamber orchestra. So we're like a Lego model, I always say. And we have just completed doing 100 world premiere commissions this past year in our 15 years. So
congratulations.
Thank you. It's a great milestone with so many different composers. And, we just have done a lot of innovations, 5 o'clock concerts on Saturday paired with ROCO Rooters, which is a childcare music education program that parents get a date night after the concert, and I always say we're saving marriages one concert at a time. So we just do different things. We have an app we ask people to have on in concert halls. The lights are on in the halls so that we can see our audience. It's a shared space. And we actually, last year, the Composer Diversity Project ranked us #1 in programming women composers and #2 with composers of color. And it wasn't a goal we were going for. It's really just something based on relationships. And I think that's really, you had asked before about how we commission, and it's really every commission, all 100 have unique stories. And it is based on who you get to know and who you purposely get to know, and places and voices that you step into and on purpose. We have already been live streaming for 3 years, and we do it for free to the world. We also have 15 years of content on our website, and we're on every streaming service through Orchard online for free listening. So one of our big values is access to what we do. And so, we hopefully next year, we're intending to do some concerts such that we can live stream to an empty hall. Our model is based on donor funding and not really ticket sales. So we're working with a task force of musicians and board and staff to figure that out.
Fantastic. So, Alecia, I'd be right to say that these 3 pieces that we're going to briefly talk about, we're going to talk about Anthony's piece a little more extensively, but these 3 pieces that you're putting forward today and that are on our resource sheet that we're going to send out, that is the tip of the iceberg.
That's
in
right.
terms of what ROCO has been doing. And there is a whole treasure trove of more repertoire to be found if people go to ROCO's website, right?
That's right. There's a whole page on all 49 of our commissions for our chamber orchestra, and then we have 51 that we're going to put up for chamber music in a little bit through the summer.
Amazing.
So,
Before we ask Anthony to talk a little bit about Jabberwocky, I just want to point out a very cool connection, which is that ACO is very much about relationships also, and we started this online commissioning and premiere program. We're doing them weekly, almost weekly. Sometimes we skip a week. And Alecia is actually going to be starring in one of them in a few weeks, right?
Yeah, and actually the music's right here on my page. The first movement's been written, and I'm practicing it with no breath marks yet, but they're going to have to be there. I don't play violin, I told him.
I'm super glad that you have some of the music. All right.
Yes.
Anthony, do you want to introduce Jabberwocky?
Sure. Well, first of all, this came about as a personal project of Alecia's from the actual poem, the Jabberwocky. And Alecia, I think this was around 2014. Right. The commission sort of started, the genesis of the project began. And Alecia had asked me to sort of basically think about writing a piece based on the Jabberwocky poem. So, the difficulty there for me was, how do I go about this? If you read the poem through, do you underscore the poem? What sort of world can I sort of introduce to the orchestra and the audience in just a few minutes? So what my take on it was, what if the Jabberwocky was sort of part of a world that I could create, much like the story of Through the Looking Glass. So what I did is create my own sort of fantasy. As Alice enters the looking glass, she goes into Wonderland and discovers this strange, mysterious boy who whisks her away into the Turkey Woods, where we find these characters, the Borogovs, the Monraths, the Jub bird and the Jabberwock himself in the woods, and the music underscores this fantastic world. And the music is very personal to me. There are little elements of some of my favorite composers and orchestrations from Stravinsky, Ravel, Debussy, even film music itself from Elfman, Bernard Herrmann. There's all these different things that sort of make up who I am. And I'm so, when I write from the heart, and it's melodic, and I think it's a wonderful thing to have someone like Alecia and ROCO to sort of give you that opportunity to express yourself in a piece like this. So I think one of the clips we're going to hear, Alecia, is when Alice enters Wonderland, we get into the Turkey Woods and we encounter the Jub bird.
Yes.
The music is underscored with bassoon is very melodic. And when you hear this music, the idea is eventually I could see this as a ballet. So when you hear the music, we could picture this music with dancers.
We've talked
or
about it.
puppeteers. There's all sorts of ways that one could sort of display this music. You can just visualize movement with it. You want the audience to be taken on this journey. So
Let's
play
hear
this
it.
little clip.
I think we are having a slight technical difficulty. So Alan is going to give me a thumbs up when he's ready.
What's spectacular is at the end too. We have a tiny clip to show that at the end of the piece, the poem was read over some really great music toward the end, and the one that recorded it was really perfectly done. But I will also say that Tony is somebody I called when Houston had Harvey hit, and we actually had our recording project scheduled that week. Great planning, and we had to. Luckily, we're able to cancel and reschedule that same year. But one of the pieces, I called Tony on a Sunday and I said, hey, I want you to write us a fanfare for the Heroes of Harvey. And he's like, when do you need it? And I said, Wednesday. and he came up with something by that afternoon, and it is Anthem of Hope. And it is something we've played now also for COVID. It was shared across Houston freely and in different iterations for string quartet, high school band. It was played 27 times across Houston the year of Harvey to blanket our city in music. So
amazing.
Yeah, anyway,
well,
but
Tony's,
we have other pieces.
Tony's website is on the resource page, so people can check that out too, I assume. We are ready to hear Jabberwocky, so
Great.
Here we go.
Okay.
Was brillig, and the sliding toves did gyre and gimble the wave. all mimsy where the burrow goes, and the moon.
Wow, that's great. It's so evocative, and the wind writing is so amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Among other
thanks.
things.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's technically very difficult piece to play, I will say.
I bet. I bet. Who's the narrator on that, Alecia?
That's
Anthony?
Renee La Tulipe.
Okay. Wow. Terrific.
So
Alecia, do you want to just mention briefly about Marcus's piece and Rena's piece, and then we'll just play both of them in a row? How's that?
that's perfect. Marcus Moroni, it's a concerto for orchestra based upon the idea of the Bartok piece, but 3 movements. We're just going to play one movement for you. It's a phenomenal piece, and this movement is in 5/4, and it just is completely natural. It's an incredible piece. We actually did this piece premiered conductorless, all 40 conductorless, which was challenging with a lot of his. You'll hear it in just a second. It's also on our CD, and then Rena Esmel, whom I know everyone knows and loves. We're doing a co-commission with her this next year as well. But she wrote this piece, Teen Murti, and it's for strings. So that's a great piece for the socially distant. You can do it with less strings too. And our count is 66442. So you can do it with that size. And I'll just let the music speak for itself. We have 8 more world premieres next year from Kyu-Young and Quinn Mason and Alyssa Morris. And we just can't wait to keep celebrating living composers, because you can't Zoom with Beethoven.
Yeah, let's underscore that point one more time before we hear these pieces, that this whole session is just to remind all of us that there is such a rich repertoire to draw from as we get through this time, and that as much as we love the classical repertoire of Mozart and Haydn and even the Schoenberg reduction of the Mahler 4, there's so much to do that it deserves being done at this time, and hopefully we're providing some ideas for you. So let's hear that clip from Marcus Moroni and Rena Ismail. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention what is now public, that Rena Ismail is now the new co-chair of New Music USA.
Yay.
As I said to her, congratulations and thank you. So here are 2 more clips from ROCO's vast repertoire.
Thanks.
Almost.
I can start singing on my oboe. Nobody wants that. Oboe solo.
Beautiful. And now we're going to hear Rena's
Teen Murti.
Wow, beautiful. Tony, thanks for joining us today and for sharing your
My
piece
pleasure.
with us. Yeah.
Thank you.
And
It's been actually an absolute wonderful pleasure listening to everyone's music. It's such a great array of just sounds and orchestrations. Really, truly an honor to be a part of this.
yeah, isn't it amazing? I'm going to bring Alecia back to say thank you.
Yeah,
Alecia,
thank you, thank you.
thank you for sharing your orchestra's work with us, and keep up the amazing work. And we'll see you on Connecting ACO Community in a few weeks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much,
Bye.
Ed. Okay. Bye, Alecia.
All right. So we're only running like 15 minutes behind, which all things considered isn't bad. And I'm going to bring on my colleagues from the incredible St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, Kyu-Young Kim, artistic director. Hey, Q. And Javier French. Did I say that right, Javier?
Yep, Javier. Yep.
Hi, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Great
you.
to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Q, do you want to start by telling us a little bit about the role that New Music and Commissions play at St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, which is pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been around for 61 years. Next year will be our 62nd season. We've done 158 commissions and about 53 other world premieres. So it's always been a central part of what we do. You know, going back to Dennis Russell Davies, back in the 70s, who was doing such innovative stuff.
We share that DNA, ACO and SPCO. Yeah,
that's right. That's exactly. And you know, first of all, thanks Ed for having us. This is a wonderful conversation, wonderful idea to share these things. Obviously, it's a really challenging time, but we're going to get through it by sharing great ideas. And so it's been great to hear all this music. And you know, we want to put forward 3 works that have been really inspiring to us. And I wanted to bring Paviel into this conversation because you know she's one of these artists that's that actually reached out to us, and which was an amazing thing. She's from St. Paul. She's from the Rondo neighborhood in St. Paul. And, you know, I wanted to first thank Paviel for joining us, but maybe Paviel, you could talk a little bit about how that happened, because it's different from any other commission that has happened since I've been there. I've been there since 2013.
Yeah, well, I am a songwriter traditionally for a band. I'm a vocalist. I'm interdisciplinary artist, so I do a little bit of everything and come from a theater background, but I mainly write music for my band. And I was thinking about expanding the sound and making kind of like a rhythmic orchestra sound, kind of in the same vein as like Barry White or Isaac Hayes, where they combine these classical soul sounds with the orchestra. Or like McFadden and Whitehead, or, you know, any of that kind of stuff, the sound of Philadelphia. So, because I was raised upon that kind of music. And so I just reached out to a couple of people to ask about if they knew folks there at SPCO. I had heard of Liquid Music also before, which was a program that they did where, you know, they were collaborating with artists that were gigging and stuff like that. And I was interested in doing some music with them. And it just happened to be kismet. It was like the right place, the right time. Because at the time that I came in there, they were getting ready to do Tapestry 19, which was a festival, you know, focusing on themes of home and what home means to you. And that was perfect. It just kind of worked itself out. The program that they had me in was songs my mother taught me. And I had been wanting to create a piece for my mom in some kind of way, because my parents had both passed away when I was younger, and she was they both were community advocates and activists and stuff, but my mom in particular did a lot of work in the Rondo neighborhood as an educator and as a gardener, and just a lot of different things that I wanted to honor her and honor our neighborhood, because Rondo is specifically historic in Minnesota because it was the neighborhood that the 94 East and West highways were built upon. Like, they built it through the neighborhood. Yeah. So I wanted to be able to add all those things into a piece. And so it was just kind of like that. I reached out and sent an email, and they were really excited to have me come in, and it just worked out. It was like everything that I was going for, they were on the same page. And it was just kind of one of those situations where it was one of the best things that have ever happened to me in my life, as far as my artistry is concerned, and just my life overall.
You know, one of the things I think that made it work from our end too was that Paviel was so honest too about what you wanted to do and what you didn't want to do. You know, I mean, and I think we were similarly were were trying to find the right place for it. We were intrigued by you. We came and heard your performances at Ice House, this great local music scene. But we weren't sure. We had that conversation. Said, well, we don't really have a pop series. I mean, we do only subscription programming. So we were struggling to find the right kind of program for it. And then with Tapestry, this idea to reach out to. So can you hear me? Okay, is it?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, that with this idea of commissioning works from a diverse set of composers around a similar theme, how we recognize home, then that's what felt right to you, what felt right to us, and what happened was really incredible. And we did it without conductor, so there was a direct connection between you and the orchestra and the players. We brought in an orchestrator, Michi Wianko, who I'm sure a lot of you know, a brilliant violinist who's played with the group a lot, and a great orchestrator. And so she worked with Pavel on that piece. And maybe, do you want to say a little bit specifically about the excerpt we're going to hear, Pavel?
Yeah, I believe the excerpt is queued up where I'm it was like there were 7 movements of this piece, and it was basically chronicling and starting at my mom's death, and then going from there, just the many things that we go through in the grieving process. And this was the part where I was saying that she was going into the light. So that's what it's called, into the light. And it talks about how I moved to Hawaii, to just get some space and some perspective on what happened and, throughout all that. And it's just my journey about coming back to Minnesota and trying to make my place here again in my home, where it doesn't necessarily feel so much like home because my parents aren't here.
Great. Well, let's hear it.
In that reflection, I began to hear my mama speak. Yeah. Forced to look at reality, I'm trying to give up on me, my passion and my dreams, but she won't allow me to drown in apathy. It's crazy. She's still mothering me and her son from another realm. She won't go unheard. She's showing me things that I don't want to see, but I gotta face it now. And she said, go back home. Go back home. Mama, I ain't trying to hear that. Go back home. Go back home. I'm not ready. There's too many people and places and things that remind me of a life that I ain't never getting back. But it keeps getting louder in my head. Go back home, do music. Go back home, do music. Go back home. Back in Minnesota, night is killing me inside. I look happy, but I am not. Please help me. I'm struggling. Pretender, faking till I make it, and then she put me in the right place, right time, so I can help others that are in pain like me. See, we're pushing forward, get together, cherishing the life we live, finding new trajectories and doing something different. Even though my mommy here is tearing me up inside, born is perfectly normal. I know that I will be alright. So it's okay if you miss somebody. Yes, it's alright if you miss somebody. It's understandable to miss somebody in your life because you unconditionally. See, now I'm back to Minnesota, working on my best life, shining brightly for the world to see that you can step outside of your fears. And that's what my mama taught us, that we control our destiny, and what we want to bring forth, we have to be willing to carry. Yes, now.
Wow, that is just fantastic.
Thank you. That was my first symphony.
What a voice you have, and I don't mean just singing.
Thank you. That means a lot. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. And Q, just amazing. I think it's worth noting that, organization as distinguished and as storied as the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra is now, for you to have the kind of accessibility for an artist to come up to you and say, I have an idea, and for that artist to be heard is so admirable and so inspiring.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I mean, I credit Paviel for her honesty and being able to say what she didn't want to do. And then, and we were looking for ways to bring it together. And Michi was an incredible collaborator. And, there was also Lembit Beecher was involved in this project. He was mentoring Paviel because this was her first piece for orchestra. But, you should tell Paviel how quickly you wrote this piece. Because it's a 17, 18-minute piece in 7 movements, but you wrote it so fast.
Yeah, it kind of just like wrote itself. And it was because once I got the A-OK from y'all, it was just like, yes, this is it. And just, I did it all in GarageBand. And so it was probably over a couple months, that I would just sit down every day and I would just lay these tracks, and I did it all MIDI. So, played all the violins, violas, cellos, bass, all the woodwinds, everything just MIDI'd in so that I could create like these sounds. And then the words just kind of were already there. You know what I mean? I didn't really have to think hard. And I sometimes it's weird because when I have pieces that are really evocative and really special and that do very well, they kind of just write themselves like that. I don't have to do a lot of labor with that. It's just more about it's already here and it's ready to come. And like, I have the okay to do it. So it was so immediate. And then getting with Michi and being able to tell her like, I want a violin swirl here because I didn't know what that was or what it's called, or I would even pull stuff from different songs and and be like, this is what I want. This is the kind of sound that I want the violins to do, or I want them to pluck, or because I don't know how to notate them. So it made it that much easier to really make the depth of the song dynamically and what I really wanted to kind of be like a novice at writing for orchestra. You know what I mean? So it just happened so effortlessly.
Have you written more? Have you written more for orchestra after this piece, Fabian?
Yes, I have a second commission that we're gonna do. Yeah, and we're pushing and hoping to do it in the fall here. But yeah, I've gotten a second commission, and I am going to keep trying to push this piece, a Requiem for Zula, because I want to do it again. Because we only got to do it that one time. We were supposed to do it in Louisville, but that kind of fell through. But it's just like, once you get so into it, it's like you only do it for 3 days. You do it for like one weekend, and it's like, oh, I want to do it some more. Like it just gelled and everything came together, and I wanted to play it for weeks and weeks. So I want to be able to like, do it more and see what I can bring out of it, hearing other orchestras do it and hearing other people put their hands on it in that way. Well, and just seeing,
that's part of why we're having this fun time this afternoon, because among the 140 people on this call are conductors and administrators and presenters, and so I hope I hope all of them take your piece.
Yes, I do too.
And Ed, I want to share a little bit about how we programmed the piece, because I think that was one of the things that.
Yeah, what else was on the program?
So the program was called Songs My Mother Taught Me. And so we used the Dvorak song, Michi arranged that, as well as the Ive songs. They're both just like 3 or 4 minutes, but they kind of started each half. We also had Dvorak's Silent Woods, and our own cellist performed that, Sarah Lewis. So that was a piece that felt like home to her. But we also had a piece by Kenan Azmeh, the Syrian clarinetist, Miltenberg Silk Road. And he wrote a piece called Don't Repeat After Me, which we've also included in the resource materials.
Yeah. And so repeat is spelled R-I-P-E-A-T, right?
Yes, yeah. It's a play on words, and it's a heartbreaking piece, Kenan's piece.
I think we have a little bit of Kenan's piece to hear, don't we?
We could play that if we have time. I wasn't sure. Okay, yeah, let's hear a little bit of Kenan's piece.
Yeah, let's hear.
Can I set it up a little bit before we hear it too? Because there's a video element of the piece that it's this part. It's a mini film made by a Syrian video artist, and it shows this boy who's running through a field. At this point, the music is building up, and then you see this absolutely heartbreaking scene at the end of a school that's totally destroyed. And so it's married to this video art, and it was programmed right after Paviel's piece too. So it was a real heart on the sleeve kind of program that we did.
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear how they fit together. Wow, that's amazing. That's fantastic. Am I correct, Kyu, that Kyu-Young is the clarinet player in the Silk Road Ensemble? Oh, you're on mute.
That's right, clarinetist, composer, and improviser. And he's been with Silk Road for a long time, but he's doing many amazing projects. And it was great to bring Kyu-Young and Paviel together on that same program. And we finished the program with this Delights and Dances by Michael Abels. Another great composer.
Yeah.
And so,
you said something cute earlier, and Paviel, I'd love your comment on this before we finish up with you today. Is when Paviel first came to you, and given her musical creator background, and you mentioned, the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra doesn't have a pop series, so we're not really. So my contention is that more and more, the word classical music should be confined to the music of Mozart and Haydn and early Beethoven. That's classical music. And we are orchestral organizations that play such a wide variety of music now. Would you agree?
I totally agree. I think we should think of ourselves as musical storytellers, and that's our job, really. And that's what's going to resonate. That's what's going to bring in a different audience. And if we don't think of ourselves in that role, and we're not curating programs with that mind set, then I think we're going to keep a very small audience, and we all know that we don't want to do that anymore. One of the things about this period of time with COVID, where we have a chance to reflect before we're really back on stage, but what kind of orchestra do we want to be when we come back? And we're thrilled that Paviel's going to have a new piece to do with us in November.
Yeah. How does that strike you, Paviel? You're not someone trying to be a classical composer. You are a composer who happens to be writing for orchestra now.
Yeah, and even to that, I've said in several different, I've answered several different questions along this line and stuff, because people wonder if I consider myself classical in that way. But for me, it's all art and all genres evolve, and so maybe even the soulful music that I add to this classical sound could even be categorized as classical, because it's an evolving sound that is rooted in classical and soul and R&B and gospel and blues rhythms, and it's all these different things. And I think it has a right to be there along, when you talk about classical composers or Black classical composers. I just don't think everything has to adhere to a specific sound, but if we're using symphonic sound and orchestral sound, it is all a part of that, and it could be a part of that classical lexicon.
100%. Thank you both for being with us today. And
thank you, Ed.
And I don't think that it would be right to say goodbye to our two colleagues without saying that I'm sure I speak for everyone on this call and our entire community when we send our love and our hope for the healing of your home and your city from the events. But something good is coming out of it, and people are speaking up now, and it's spread across the world. And there's celebration in that. But we are thinking of you and hoping that all your families and friends and institutions will come out of this better on the other side.
Thank you,
Thank
Ed.
you.
Yeah, we all have to do our part.
Yeah, we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can't. Q, you and I have met before briefly, but Pavel,
Yeah.
I can't wait to meet you someday. So it's a
Absolutely.
date.
Yeah, absolutely. Just let me know.
All right.
All right. Take care. Thank you,
Bye.
Ed.
Bye.
Thank you.
Derek, if you're still on, I'm going to bring you on for a second. But that's it. Sorry we ran a little bit over, but I hope you had a good time. I had a great time. God, what great music and great artists and great colleagues and great organizations. And again, for the last time, I'll just mention that a resource list of all of these pieces, organizations, composers, artists, etc., will be emailed to you if you signed up on Eventbrite. If you didn't, reach out to one of our organizations and we'll find a way to get it to you. Also, we do have a translation of the study about socially distanced playing that was issued by the Consortium of Berlin Orchestras, which we can share with colleagues on an individual basis. We can't post it, and we're not going to post it on our website or anything, but we will share it colleague to colleague. So we'll include that in the resource list. Derek, you want to say anything before we say goodbye?
Well, I was just so thrilled to hear all that great music and just to know that American music is alive and well. And it's what's especially moving to me is how many musicians and how many administrators and how many conductors are out there really supporting and championing composers. These are all orchestras that I, as a composer, have had some association with, and they're just all at the top of their game. They're full of musicians who love to play, love to be challenged, and they want to speak to the music of our time. And so I hope we just gave you a little snapshot of what's happening in America today. Thank you, Ed, for being so eloquent and getting through so much music here. And anyone who wants to, please reach out to us and to these other folks, because the best part is when this music is shared with as many people as possible.
That is the goal. That is the goal. Thank you to all of our colleagues. Thank you to Alan Roberts backstage in the broadcast studio, running everything and getting all those excerpts up. A lot of work went into this on many people's parts, and maybe we'll do it again. And hopefully it won't be because we need socially distanced repertoire. It'll just be to share the joy of music, which we did today, I think.
Staff too.
Yeah.
Great work.
Yeah. All right. Everyone stay safe, stay well, stay hopeful, and keep the music going. Thank you so much.